Good evening. 1 year into President Donald Trump's second term, America is in the midst of dramatic change. After his 2024 victory, Trump returned to Washington with a promise. This term would be faster, bolder, and more forceful. He immediately began reshaping the government, relying heavily on executive orders to bypass Congress. Supporters saw this as decisive leadership, finally cutting through bureaucracy. Opponents, however, warned of dangerous overreach and a threat to the separation of powers. The nation became deeply divided, with fierce debates and uncertainty about the future. The real battles weren't in Congress, but in the courts, as every major executive order faced legal challenges. These lawsuits questioned the limits of presidential authority and tested the American system of checks and balances. The first year of Trump's second term became a high-stakes test of power and law. The answers to these questions will shape the country for years to come. The story of 2025 is one of power, law, and the struggle to define America's future. Trump's aggressive start set the stage for a year of intense conflict. The country watched as the courts became the main arena for this unprecedented power struggle. Every executive action was scrutinized, challenged, and debated. The nation braced for a year where the very foundation of American democracy was up for debate. The outcome would determine the future of the presidency and the nation itself. President Trump's second term opened with a historic surge of executive orders. He targeted three main areas: shrinking the federal government, tightening immigration, and imposing new tariffs. Hundreds of orders were signed in just 1 year, an unprecedented pace. By bypassing Congress, Trump aimed to deliver on his campaign promises immediately. Supporters cheered his direct approach, seeing it as a fight against the deep state. Critics, however, called it a constitutional crisis, arguing he was overstepping his authority. Many of these orders attempted to change laws that only Congress can alter. Lawsuits flooded the courts, challenging the legality of his actions. The central question: can a president unilaterally reshape the nation? The courts became the ultimate referees as the country watched the struggle unfold. The year 2025 was defined by this fundamental battle over executive power. Trump's strategy was clear: act first, let the courts decide later. The outcome would set new precedents for presidential authority. America entered uncharted territory, with the balance of power hanging in the balance. One of Trump's top priorities was shrinking the federal government. He created the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to slash agency budgets and staff. DOGE was empowered to recommend massive cuts and fire federal workers, targeting agencies from the EPA to education. Supporters hailed this as a bold move to dismantle a bloated bureaucracy. Chaos erupted as thousands of employees faced layoffs and agencies scrambled to respond. Public sector unions and watchdogs sued, arguing Trump lacked authority to fire many workers and cut budgets without Congress. The fight over DOGE became a central theme of 2025, a battle over the very role of government. The administration also tried to fire heads of independent agencies, sparking more lawsuits. These cases tested the limits of presidential control over the executive branch. The outcome would determine how much power a president has over the machinery of government. The struggle over DOGE was about more than budgets. It was about the future of American governance. The courts would soon decide just how far a president could go. Immigration took center stage in Trump's second term. On day one, he signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship for children of non-citizens and undocumented immigrants. This move challenged the 14th Amendment and threatened to affect millions. Supporters called it a necessary step to secure the border. Critics called it unconstitutional. Lawsuits quickly blocked the order, with courts ruling only a constitutional amendment or Supreme Court decision could change birthright citizenship. The administration also reinstated the ban on transgender military service and expanded National Guard use at the border. Each order faced immediate legal challenges. The fight over birthright citizenship was destined for the Supreme Court, setting up a historic confrontation. The legal battles over immigration defined the year, raising fundamental questions about American identity. The nation waited as the courts prepared to decide who is and isn't an American. The stakes could not be higher for millions of families. The outcome would reshape the meaning of citizenship for generations. With Congress sidelined, the courts became the main battleground for Trump's agenda. Over 300 lawsuits challenged his executive orders by mid-year, filed by states, civil rights groups, and businesses. Nationwide injunctions from federal judges repeatedly blocked key policies. The administration accused the judiciary of political bias, escalating tensions between branches. The Supreme Court became the final arbiter, as the most consequential cases landed on its docket. These weren't just policy disputes, they were fights over the balance of power itself. The outcomes would set precedents for generations. The stakes, the very structure of American government. The nation watched as the courts decided the limits of presidential authority. In June 2025, the Supreme Court handed Trump a major procedural victory in Trump versus Casa. The case, sparked by the birthright citizenship order, focused on the power of lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled such injunctions should be rare, requiring class action lawsuits for nationwide impact. This made it harder for opponents to block Trump's policies across the country with a single lawsuit. The ruling didn't decide the legality of the executive orders, but it slowed down legal challenges. Now policies could be blocked in some states but continue elsewhere while cases moved forward. The decision gave the administration more time and flexibility to implement its agenda. For the public, legal battles became more complex and drawn out. The White House gained a strategic edge, as sweeping court victories against Trump's policies became less likely. The fight shifted to building larger, more complicated lawsuits. The Supreme Court's decision tilted the legal playing field in Trump's favor. The ultimate constitutional questions, however, remained unresolved. The nation braced for even bigger legal showdowns ahead. Another major conflict, Trump's push to control independent federal agencies. Traditionally, agency heads could only be fired for cause, protecting them from political pressure. Trump challenged this, seeking the power to remove agency leaders at will. The issue came to a head in Trump versus Slaughter after he tried to fire a Federal Trade Commission member. The Supreme Court appeared ready to overturn decades-old precedent, potentially giving the president sweeping control over agencies like the Federal Reserve. Supporters argued this would make government more democratic and responsive. Opponents warned it would politicize crucial regulators and threaten economic stability. The decision could fundamentally restructure the executive branch, concentrating power in the Oval Office. The stakes, whether independent agencies can remain insulated from politics. Most observers expected the court to side with Trump, dramatically expanding presidential authority. The outcome would reshape how government works for decades. The nation awaited a ruling that could redefine the balance of power. Trump's economic agenda faced a major test in learning resources versus Trump. Using emergency powers, he imposed a sweeping 10% tariff on most imports, claiming a trade deficit was a national emergency. Businesses sued, arguing the law didn't authorize tariffs and that only Congress can impose taxes. At the Supreme Court, justices from both sides questioned the administration's broad interpretation of emergency powers. The court seemed poised to rule against Trump, signaling limits to presidential authority over economic policy. A loss would invalidate a signature policy and force Trump to seek congressional approval for tariffs. The case underscored that while the court might expand executive power in some areas, it would defend Congress's core powers. The outcome would have sweeping effects on the economy and future trade policy. The decision would clarify the boundaries of presidential power in economic emergencies. The nation awaited a ruling that could reshape America's approach to trade. The balance of power between Congress and the president was on the line. The first year of Trump's second term has redrawn the map of presidential power. The Supreme Court has expanded executive authority in some areas, but set limits in others. The fate of birthright citizenship remains undecided, with a landmark ruling expected soon. These legal battles are shaping the very definition of American government and identity. More power to fire agency heads could make government more responsive, or more unstable. Changes to citizenship rules would alter who is considered American. The tariff case will affect prices, jobs, and the economy nationwide. The events of 2025 have set the country on a path of profound change. As 2026 approaches, the struggle between the president and the courts continues. The Supreme Court's decisions will redraw the boundaries of power for generations. For Americans, the rules of government are being rewritten in real time. Trump's second term is testing the limits of presidential power. The coming years will reveal what kind of nation America will become.